My name is Andoh Quarm, and I was born in Ghana.
Hello and welcome to Obehi Podcast. I'm your host, Obehi A14, and I strongly believe that everyone has a story to share. Now let's get started into this episode.
In Nzima, particularly on April 4th, 1935. So you could see that I am an old man, 87 years old. Anyway, I went to school in my native tribal area, the Nzima, and I finished my elementary school there, and I felt that I wasn't complete in my education, although this is what the colonial administration had for us. In other words, when you finish what now they call junior high school, and that would be it. And so I took correspondence courses from Oxford, and I didn't finish getting the qualification that I wanted. In other words, I wanted to sit for the general uh, certificate of education, but what happened was I found it very difficult to have a correspondence course in England where I pay my fees, they send me the lessons, and then I read and then answer the questions and send them by mail. Anyway, whoever has done a distance course before knows what I'm talking about. At any rate, I want to sit for the uh, ordinary general education examination, and I didn't do well, but at least I passed French. I was surprised. Anyway, I joined the railway department, worked for the government as a clerical assistant, and then finally ended up in Accra as joined the foreign service. I was posted to Niger, Niamey, and then Lomé, Central African Republic, and Khartoum, where Nkrumah was overthrown. I was sent back home from Khartoum in Sudan, and to be honest with myself, I felt harassed by the administration through the military intelligence, questioning and harassing me that I had sent uh, secret messages to Kwame Nkrumah in Guinea. And this to me was ridiculous because the one who did it was my ambassador. And unfortunately, I I did not accept any of these charges. Finally, I was sent to a special branch, which is more or less the equivalent of a FBI in the United States. And then it was there that I was held for 30 days after questioning me for all that they could have shared from the military intelligence. They put me in detention. I was there for 1 year, and then I was released, but was told to report every day at the special branch office. I did about 2 weeks, And then I asked them, what was that for? And then they said I should ask my superintendent or the superintendent who gave them the orders. So I told them honestly that I was not going to step there again. Well, I was a typist, grade 1 at that time, and my employers, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they needed me. So when I was released, I reported back to the ministry, and it was there that I was working then, and I asked them whether they were going to allow me to go back to Khartoum, and they said I should wait. I didn't know what the whole waiting should be. But when I was at the ministry, a friend of mine, we were all typists, brought a pamphlet that he had got from Washington, D.C., Louis Hotel Motel School. I was very much interested in it. So I applied to go there and learn hotel motel management. From there, I got to the United States, Washington, D.C. on 3rd September 1967. And on the 7th of September, classes began. I was there for, I think, 4 to 6 months when I graduated, and immediately started work at a restaurant, an Italian restaurant called Guest's Restaurant, Washington, D.C. It was there that I learned how to live in the United States. Anyway, I worked there for 8 months, and then I had problems there. The problem was that the accountant under whom I was working didn't like me, so I was sacked. Fortunately, I got a place at the Mayflower Hotel, a distinguished hotel for politicians and for high-class CEOs, chief executive officers of good companies. And then from there, I stayed there for nearly 2 years. And then I saved money and then went to California, San Francisco, to attend the San Francisco State University. Anyway, I worked and studied, and I was enrolled at the university for 4 years, where I got my first degree in philosophy. Then I came back to Ghana, worked with the Institute of African Studies for 3 years, and then I had a scholarship there to study for the Masters in African Studies, Sociology, African History, and Sociolinguistics. I failed the final examination, and there was no place for me to stay at the campus. My room was taken away from me for incoming students. So I wrote to Howard University in Washington, D.C., and I had a good, very, very surprising reply that if I have a B average, then they will give me a TA, in other words, teaching assistant. So that's where I went and forgot about the African studies because it didn't help me. Anyway, I did my master's in philosophy, in social and political philosophy at Howard University. The dates are now out of my memory. I think it's senior moment, if I would say so. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I had my first master's in philosophy 2 years after. I taught at the University of the District of Columbia for 6 years, and then I was dissatisfied with the salary, so I left, and I went to New York City. It was there that I felt that teaching in high school would give me more money. So that's what I did. And from high school, I came to junior high school, and then finally came to elementary school to work with children. And I felt satisfied with working with children in elementary school. Anyway, I worked, and then by the time I was 68, I decided to retire. So I retired, but continued to live in St. Albans in New York City, or in Queens, New York City. Finally, I came back home to Ghana to visit my family, my clan, and I still lived in New York City, St. Albans, with my girlfriend. At any rate, when it comes to marriage, I had married twice. Each woman gave me 3 children. So I had 6 children, 2 girls and 4 boys. Now I was visiting off and on to Ghana, where fortunately I built a house, a 5-bedroom house. So anytime I come to Ghana, I don't live in a hotel or I don't stay with anybody. I come straight home to my house. Right now, I am speaking in my house at Kwashiman in Accra.
Thank you so much, sir. That is very interesting to listen to. It is true that, we are going to be talking about Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, but it is good that we start with who is talking with us. We do this intentionally. We need to know about you. You are important, and what you are talking about is equally important. So I want you to take us back a little bit, because you grew up now during colonialism in Ghana.
Yes.
Tell me, how does it feel to grow up during colonialism? Because most of us, we didn't do.
Okay. I feel miserable under colonialism because I had Nkrumah was in America and then finally in Britain, and he himself opposed colonialism. He said he was coming to achieve independence for the Gold Coast. Ghana was then Gold Coast, the old name that the white man gave to Ghana. Finally, Nkrumah achieved independence, and the name was changed from Gold Coast to Ghana. The reason why I felt miserable under colonialism was that, in fact, I was influenced by the political situation in the Gold Coast. For instance, the education that most of us had was very depressing, you know, depressing in the sense that it is the colonial administration that controls education. And since they control the education, you can't learn what you wanted to learn. They made you learn what they wanted. For instance, my name Andoh Quarm, they didn't want me to use it unless I had Joseph or unless I wanted to be a Christian. And they gave me the name Joseph. Joseph Andoh Quarm. At any rate, there were other things too. For instance, if you are brilliant and you want to continue your education to high school level or university level, you won't get it unless your family probably has some very good economic standing or very rich. So I didn't go to high school. I did some distance learning, like I said, with Wolseley Hall in Oxford, but I had to struggle to have education, a good education. And that's why when Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown, I was able to leave the country and go to the United States. And it was the United States that I had a higher education. I had 2 masters, one in philosophy and one in education at 2 different universities, San Francisco State University and Washington, Howard University at Washington, D.C.
Now, let's try to know the person of Kwame Nkrumah, but more importantly, about his idea. The first thing, I want you to first of all tell us, who is this person? Tell us first about him, then we are going to talk about his idea of Pan-Africanism.
Kwame Nkrumah was a very, very mysterious person as far as what I heard, what I saw, and I admired him. Although it wasn't personal, but because of his ideas. Uh, what he wanted to achieve for the Gold Coast, only a few of us appreciated it. Or the mass of uneducated people, they were strongly behind him. And the music that they used to prop him up was very, very, unnerving. So we all followed him till he was overthrown. But before they could overthrow him, he was traveling to Vietnam. You know how the Vietnamese and America were entangled in war. He wanted to go there and see whether he can stop the war. But he didn't get there. He got in Peking, Beijing, in China, and then he got the news that he has been overthrown. Anyway, he came back to Africa, and Sekou Touré gave me a place to live. In fact, Sekou Touré declared him as a co-president, which was the first time that I heard that word, that Kwame Nkrumah could become his co-president. And it was there that Kwame Nkrumah lived, believing that he will one day return to Ghana to continue his agitation for Pan-Africanism. Now, the idea of Pan-Africanism started when he was a student at Lincoln University in Pennsylvania. And in fact, when he went to London to pursue his education in law, he actually attended 2 Pan-African meetings in Manchester and the other one elsewhere. And he brought that idea to Ghana or the Gold Coast. When Pa Grant, who sponsored him to go to Lincoln, paid his passage back to Ghana. This aspect of his life has been misinterpreted. Some people are saying his return to Ghana was paid by J.B. Danquah, the doyen of Gold Coast politics. Danquah was a very, very shrewd man, a lawyer from London and practicing in the then Gold Coast, but became a member of the political party that Pa Grant from the Western region, a rich timber magnate, had established, the United Gold Coast Convention. They made Nkrumah secretary in that organization. And when they did that, he discovered that he discovered that the party was not a mass party. It was an elite, a group of elite, especially lawyers. And it was there that he discovered he can't continue with them and left to go and form the CPP, the Convention People's Party. Actually, he pulled all his good followers along with him. I will mention K. Igbadama, who was very, very strong partner, along with Kojo Botsio, also a very strong partner. So if you check the pictures that they took in those days, you see that these two people were left and right. Anytime they were taking a picture, you see either Botsio on the left and Godema on the right. And in fact, when Nkrumah was imprisoned, Godema was the one who kept Nkrumah's name alive. And the first election, Nkrumah and the CPP won. And what happened was that the colonial administration arrested Nkrumah and a few others and put them in prison. And they came out as prison graduates. On the other hand, that idea has never been established or used, but they were able to popularize it. Nkrumah came out of prison to be leader of government business. What happened was he was a good agitator, and the British government and the colonial government, they saw that and gave me that title. I don't know whether to soften his position on Pan-Africanism, but finally independence was won, and he made it clear on 6th March 1957, in the night of 6th March 1967, that the independence of Ghana was meaningless unless it was linked up with the total liberation of Africa. So, this is what I can say about Nkrumah, because when he was going to Britain, he knew going to America, Lincoln University, he knew what he wanted to do. So, Pan-Africanism was an idea that already found support in Kwame Nkrumah's mind, And he tried to do it. But some Africans liked it, some didn't like it. And of course, they had their support of the colonial government here at home in the Gold Coast and in Britain. Well, the local opponent wanted to assassinate Kwame Nkrumah. They did it about 5 times, but they couldn't. And so, when it comes to Pan-Africanism, Kwame Nkrumah had his own ideas, and he found support in African Americans overseas, especially those from the United States, Du Bois for one, Padmore for second, CLR James for third, although CLR James didn't believe that Nkrumah can achieve that idea. So we stopped there, and I would say that he did what he has to do, and he had a very strong opposition in his own people or some leaders of Africa, especially I will name one or two. His neighbor, Fufu Abuanyi of Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, hated that idea. In other words, those who hated it, Nkrumah wanted independence now, and his detractors wanted independence in the shortest possible time. But Nkrumah beat them to the game.
All right. Thank you so much for that. I will just hit a little bit on, I will just ask you to say something about the independence, and then of course we are going to move into Pan-Africanism again. What kind of independence are we even talking about here? Because in many parts of Africa, we see these Africans who are negotiating with the colonialists on the independence. And in most of these cases, this independence, the terms have been drafted and they need to sign. And in most of the cases, we really didn't get independence. We just got a semblance of independence. So by independence now, of course, it will look like the United States getting independence from Britain, and they remain totally independent, is that they are able to formulate their policies and they run their system, independence of the United Kingdom. Is that a kind of independence we are talking about when we say, for example, Ghana got independent on the 6th of March 1957, or maybe Nigeria got independence October 1st, 1916? Are we talking about the same thing here? Let me understand.
Yes, Mr. Obehi, I think most of us pretended that we know the independence that we were fighting for. No, I don't think so. And it was clear to some of us that independence would mean, like one of Nkrumah's ministers said, and I mentioned Korbodusi, he said, independence means you scratch my back, I scratch your back. I don't know whether I understand what Krobudisi was saying, but Krobudisi was a staunch supporter of Nkrumah. Nkrumah didn't say independence means you scratch my back, I scratch your back. It meant something entirely different, politically, economically, socially. Nkrumah wanted freedom in all these. He didn't want dictatorship from outside Ghana or dictatorship from the colonial administration or the local administration like the chiefs. And for that matter, they hated him. They didn't like him. And he wanted complete independence without strings attached. And that's the phrase he used. No independence with strings attached. Because they will give you independence, but they will tend to rule you from behind with either money or ideas. And Nkrumah never wanted that. He wanted independence from the African personality, the word he used, independence with free ideas, independence, you rule yourself, even making your own mistakes. He didn't want anybody from outside to dictate to the new African, what to do and what not to do. And most of his followers or the elite with whom he was ruling Ghana, most of them didn't understand it. And so they did what they liked. For instance, they began to acquire wealth, building houses and establishing their own companies and all that. For that reason, Nkrumah won them in what it came to pass was called the Dawn broadcast. And the Dawn broadcast, he warned party members, especially those who were ministers, those who held very good position in the party. Independence for Africa doesn't mean just to struggle for wealth. If you want to set up a company or you want wealth, get out of the party. Don't stay in the party or in the cabinet, his cabinet, and then amass wealth for yourself and your family. So this is what, as I was growing up, and in fact, when Nkrumah came to Ghana in 1947, I was 12 years old. And we all began to understand what the man was saying, but we didn't understand it all. We also thought that independence means getting something to eat. And how you eat it, how you get and eat it comes from working or otherwise. And this is what happened. But after the Dawn broadcast, he relieved some of his cabinet ministers from the party and seized their property, the houses that they built, and some was shown to us when we could visit those places. For instance, Krobud Eduse's Asante house was seized for the government, and some others too. Both CEO's Black Star house was seized. Nobody probably could buy it, as I understand. But finally, when he was overthrown, they released these properties to his ministers, those that he has removed them from the party. Some came back, some didn't come back. Unfortunately, like I could say, Bodema, K.A. Bodema, from Volta region, one of his best partner in the fight for independence. And some people say that without Bodema, Nkrumah would have been forgotten, because when he was in prison, it was only Bodema who took the mantle upon himself to popularize the man Kwame Nkrumah. Bodema, left the party and went into exile and was doing some nefarious activities against Nkrumah. Later on, we read it from books. And in fact, when I was a graduate student in America, I read a book or books in which Bodema's name came up. J.B. Danquo's name came up. K.A. Buzier's name came out. In other words, his own African people, some of them, and especially they were the elite, were trying to get rid of him. Unfortunately, they couldn't. Finally, when he wanted to intercede in the war between Vietnam and the United States, the CIA, with the help of some soldiers and policemen in Ghana, overthrew him.
That is sad, and that is the reality today. But what I think is also important is that we need to understand that some of these mistakes have been made from the beginning. In that it wasn't very clear for us the kind of independence that we actually wanted. This also can be natural in that if we have fought a war like the American did, because the American, I think, is a good example of independence, because any country can be captured by another country, but how that country that captures you lives has a lot to say of the kind of freedom you want to claim to have. Because now you can look at the former French colony, who are said to be free, but they still have to keep their reserve in French bank account. They still need to use, of course, all across Africa, we say we are free, but we are not really free mentally. We are not free linguistically. We're not free even culturally. Militarily, we need to depend on those who were once our enslaver. In terms of the economy, we are tied to them in currency. So it wasn't really clear. That is why I find it difficult to make a comparison. In fact, it is not comparable, the kind of independence that African countries have and the kind of independence that they should have. Because independence cannot be given to you, actually. You need to get it. No one can give you freedom. So I want you to speak to the point of where we actually got it wrong. Because that is very important for us. This didn't happen only in Ghana. It happened all across in Africa. A good example will also be in Nigeria. But this is very important for us. Where did we get it wrong from the beginning?
Well, from the beginning, like you say, or you just said it, we didn't fully understand what independent meant. Uh, we thought that when they give you a flag, you compose your own national anthem, you are independent. But there are a whole lot of things, like you said, culturally, militarily, socially, economically. Most of us don't understand that, didn't understand it. Let me give you an example of the product, cocoa, which the colonial administration needed for survival, if I could say that. We had everything here. It was like the Vietnam, it was like the war that happened in Nigeria. Okay. The Eastern Nigerian knew it has oil, crude oil, but the government was giving contracts to Shell and others. And it has happened in Ghana, and even now in a different form. Shell was destroying Eastern Nigeria by the crude oil was leaking from many points, and they wouldn't do anything about it, to the extent that a few Eastern Nigerians woke up and the government didn't like it, and it sends the soldiers to go and stop it. It hasn't happened here yet. It didn't happen in Ghana, but like I mentioned, cocoa. When I became a graduate student, I read a book written by Geoffrey Bing, B-I-N-G, who became the first European to hold the position of Attorney General under Kwame Nkrumah. Geoffrey Bing's title of the book is Reap the Whirlwind, and you sow what you reap. In Ghana, cocoa became a very important crop. And in those days, cocoa was the lifeblood of Ghana's reserves, or the money that came out of cocoa was what Kwame Nkrumah was using to develop the country. So, fortunately or unfortunately, the white man knew all these things. A nation like Ghana, Nigeria, Ivory Coast, all African countries to say, they never control the prices of their own products, natural resources, and all that. And Nkrumah made it clear to them, the colonial administration, that look, you are asking me to to devalue my currency. I don't price anything. Timber, gold, diamond, manganese, and all that. And Nkrumah made it clear that he didn't price any of these on the so-called world market. And so he wouldn't devalue his currency. So what they did, and I'm saying what they, the colonialists, Britain, France, United States, and all those who use cocoa decided to use it to overthrow Nkrumah, and they succeeded. What they did was the colonialists had their agents in the post-colonial countries who was giving them economic statistics on cocoa, coffee, a whole lot of other things. And the white man used it, or the colonial administration used it to continue to rule us economically. Cocoa became a very, very important political crop, and it happened here in Ghana. The Ashanti political elite, for instance, wanted to use cocoa, or wanted to this is very difficult sometimes to explain or to discuss. So this is what the elite in Ashanti did, and as a result, they formed a movement called the so-called liberation movement, national liberation movement. And they use cocoa plant, the cocoa plant, as their party symbol. Although the CPP, or Kwame Nkrumah, and his party objected to it, but they wouldn't agree. And they used the cocoa plant as the symbol of their party, meaning all cocoa that Ashanti produced, the money should be offered to Ashanti. In other words, the National Liberation Movement wanted a federation government. Nkrumah said Ghana is too small to have a federation government. Or what he was telling them was that you can use that plant as your symbol. But they went on anyway to use it, and this caused a whole lot of problems intellectually, politically, economically. And then it sprang into violence, you know, and you have to be a Ghanaian to understand what Matemahu means. Matemahu means I have separated myself. They wanted federation, and they knew very well that federation for Ashanti wouldn't work. But they went on anyway and caused a lot of problems. Now, a lot of Ghanaians who were CPP members had to run away from Ashanti, or especially Kumasi, the capital of Ashanti. And violence was used to force them out. Anyway, this is a little unknown reason why they did that, but they knew their own reasons for doing that. And when Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown, Ashanti never mentioned federation again. Matimo, they didn't mention it again. Now you have Bafwa Kuto's son as Minister of Agriculture. And you have those who were shouting Matimo and all this, they have their children ruling. And they don't mention Matimo anymore. So it goes like this. Pan-Africanism was not understood. Kwame Nkrumah's idea of Pan-Africanism, or what is it? Or I have lost words to explain this aspect. But anyway, it didn't sit well with some Ghanaians, and especially the opposition party didn't accept that. And we know it now, what they are doing after Nkrumah was overthrown. The things that he did were destroyed. Some strong economic ideas that he laid down, they said it was communism. And they destroyed. So, politically, the man's idea was very, very difficult to follow, because even his own party members, especially the elite in the party, abhorred what the man was teaching or doing. And you could see it that after the overthrow, there wasn't open resistance. There wasn't. His overthrow in 1967, 68, no party member, if they did it, they did it secretly. But openly, never. Like when Kwame Nkrumah was agitating, everything was open.
Thank you so much for that. All right, now, um, is it possible that these people didn't understand the idea because it was not explained to them in the language that they could understand? Or is it maybe like, for example, somebody getting this high education in the West and then coming to Africa to explain high concept thing to people who needed it to be explained in the terms and terminology they could understand? Is that what led to the fact that people didn't really understand what the idea of Pan-Africanism mean? And what does it really mean? What is the meaning of Pan-Africanism?
For the mass of people, they knew what Pan-Africanism was. If I tell you that they don't, then I didn't know what was happening, But I knew what was happening concerning the so-called Matimoho people versus the CPP. For instance, people knew that they have been subjugated for long. The white man has sat on them for too long, and they want their independence. They want to rule themselves. But how to go about it, maybe Kwame Nkrumah's style of ruling the country became very harsh. But I remember that as a young man, we all sang praises for Kwame Nkrumah, and we mean it, we meant it. But the economic situation was used to overthrow Kwame Nkrumah, besides the independence that he had won for us. Because as human beings, we need to eat. The economic factor of independence can betray a country. Right now, there is so much opposition in this country against the government because they felt that the government has more or less made them hungry. Things are expensive, even local foodstuffs are very expensive. The pay is not good. Imagine you work in Ghana right now and they pay you 1,000 cedis, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6 cedis. All these monies can't buy you what you want. It can't buy you sufficient food. It can't give you the house. So, since all these things are bothering people, and you could see it when Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown, that even some of his followers were jubilating. So Pan-Africanism for Africans, especially Ghanaians, we knew what it was and we supported it. But the economic problems along with that made us very, very ununderstanding. In other words, you understand one thing, but another thing is used to force you to forget what you wanted Pan-Africanism to be. So for this reason, the economic factors, how a man will put food on the table for his family, all these things were used to let us put Pan-Africanism aside. This is what I see, and this is what still goes on. Our economy, our natural resources are being siphoned to the white man's country. And then from there, it becomes a product, an imported product. And when it becomes an imported product, the price is such high or higher that you can't buy it. It's only a few people, especially those who have education and work with the government or work with the party, they could afford it. And so it becomes difficult to really discuss Pan-Africanism and African economic system. Now that you have African common market, we will live to see what Pan-Africanism means and vis-a-vis Pan-African economic systems.
Ideas sometimes, when it is a concept, okay, it might appear very beautiful. It is in the application that we begin to see all the limitations in them. I remember when we were talking about what it actually means to be independent before, that as an independent people, you were saying that we needed to be free even to make our own mistakes. That is true. So this idea of Pan-Africanism, is it that it is faulty as an idea, that there are natural limitations that makes it not to work, make it not to be practical when we put it into practice? Or is because we haven't made enough mistakes in it and continue to try to put it in practice and to refine it? Because from the concept just coming into reality, it cannot be perfect. It's not always perfect. Even in the United States, like we have made an example before, the democracy that they are practicing there is still an experiment. It's not the best, but at least it is the best compared to maybe some other forms of government, which means that it's still not a perfect system. There is no perfect system. So where is the error lie in the idea of Pan-Africanism? Is it that it is really deficient in terms of how it should be structured? Therefore, we should throw it away, or because we have not endured the sacrifice enough to practice it, Are they continue to refine it? I want you to help me there.
What you say is true in that the Pan-African idea can be sabotaged by economic practices. Like I mentioned Geoffrey Bing's book, Reap the Whirlwind. In it, he explained the position of cocoa in Ghana, how we never, as an independent people, prize the cocoa. In other words, you are producing your own goods, but you don't price it. Somebody price it for you. And of course, there are other ideas which he has, and the colonial administration, or to say that the mother country, as they used to say it, the mother country has practiced its system for centuries, and we are just round the corner. What do we have? Take, for instance, we don't even have a national language that everybody understands. We still use what other people say the slave master's language. In Ghana, you have to speak English. It takes a long time to be able to speak English and understand English well. All these things are there to make you not understand what, like I say, the slave master used to enslave you or enslaved us and divided us through the Berlin Conference of 1884-85. They met and decided how to deal with you, deal with Africa with the help of United States, of course. The United States was at the Berlin Conference as an onlooker. He said, Africa is your playground. Dare not to enter South Africa, South America. And that's what it was. The people know what to do, but the interference is holding us back. There is nothing that you can do that they don't know. They have their intelligence officers, they have their spies, they have their system embedded in your system. So, I don't know when we will be able to get away from what European countries do to us. You go and study at their universities, and you come home, you have to practice what they want you to do. So I don't know. But what I think I know is if we were to have our own language, like China immediately, Mao gave them Mandarin, and from there they shut up. You know, I saw a Nigerian telling Nigerians, why is it that some countries are advanced and others are not? And his own answer was that they have their language and they use it in physics, chemistry, mathematics, in other words, in scientific development. We don't have it. And our education is not a good education, you know. So I don't fully understand why it should be so. Do we have to fight the white man and ask him to leave us alone or what? I don't know. Because you don't have big guns, you know. We negotiated for independence. And so, since we negotiated for independence, they will not leave us alone. But if we had fought them, killed them, killed ourselves, then probably would have learned a lesson. And we will do this through our language. I remember during the fight for independence in the Gold Coast, the traditional musician was using traditional language to make the people understand what independence means. And Kwame Nkrumah was sent to come and achieve independence for us in a local language. And we were dancing and happy. But after the independence was negotiated and given to us, we find another problem, economic problem. You know, and if we can deal with the economic problem, are able to control our own currency, control the price of our resources, control our education, then probably we will get there. But right now, economic independence is what we need. And so far, no African country, not only Ghana, no African country has been able to do that. And it was according to Nkrumah's ideas, Pan-Africanism could give us all these. But they eliminated him immediately. You go to Tanzania, recently they had a very powerful leader, you know, who was doing good things for the Tanzanian people, and he was eliminated. So the economic situation is what probably I will agree has made it difficult for us to unite. And of course, like I said, our independence were negotiated. We didn't fight for it, although we think we fought for it by mounting on a political platform and say a few interesting things. People will shout and dance, and so
No,
yeah,
no, really, really, it's quite sad, no? It's
it is
sad in the sense that somebody decide to imprison you in their own terms, and they decide to set you free in their own terms.
correct.
Something is wrong here. Something is absolutely wrong. So, are we not supposed to think that there is something wrong here? Why are we not thinking that?
We are thinking that way. We know it, but we have to live with it till another century or whatever. Mr. Obehi, thank you very much for saying that. But we Africans are so shrewd. We know where the shoe pinches, but we have to wear that shoe. We have to wear that shoe. Nkrumah said he didn't know that the Ghanaian people were so naive. Maybe that word I have to use. We were naive to think that imported foods, some of us have accepted new food tastes to the extent that some of us thought that if you don't get milk and put it in our Milo or tea or quick oats, then something is wrong. So do what is right by removing the leader, because that's what the opposition is telling you. The opposition party is telling you that this is it. Everybody wants to rule. Everybody wants to head the country without rules, without economic rules, without being able to make people understand where we stand.
All right, I have another curiosity. Now, we can be looking at the transatlantic slave trade and colonialism as if that was our history. But that is wrong. We are a people that have been existing for several thousands of years. Are we not able to look back to our history and understand how to govern ourselves, and understand how to decide how to live, and also how to die for what we believe in? Have we always been a people that have always been slave to other people? Don't we have something we can look back to in the past to say this is how to run a society? Help me with that.
Well, what is happening is simple. We have African countries with so-called two-party system. In other words, you have two strong parties. In Ghana, we have, I think, more than 12, but two came out strong or stronger. The CPP and the the United Party, which now calls itself NPP, National Progressive Party. And then the CPP is swept under the carpet because of lack of good leadership. And then you have the NDC, which came out of the barrel of a gun, which Lawrence set up. These are the two parties that Ghana is dealing with now. And you could see it clearly from each party government's point of view about the history of a people. They don't teach the history of a people, and they don't care. You know, they don't care that we've been enslaved by another race of people. We've been, so to say, maltreated, and they go on to maltreat us because they know that they can checkmate you. Politics is like a game of chess, and it's played with strong, strong ideas of how to move the pieces on the chessboard. When I was teaching in elementary school in the United States, I became a chess coordinator in one of my schools. And it was there that I discovered that good thoughts begins in childhood. I was very, very impressed with white kids and black kids and Latino kids, how their parents wanted them to master the game of chess. And you could see that some of these little boys and girls, 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, you could see how good they could move the pieces on the chessboard. In other words, we haven't begun yet. I come from Ghana. It was recently that I saw a Ghana, Chicago alliance, something like that, in a chess game. They start from elementary school. In other words, what I'm trying to say is that there are certain things that we have to know, even if we don't want to know our history, our past history. If we don't know that, fine. But when it comes to education, you have to do certain things that make your children very, very astute in certain things. So I would say that we still have a few more years to go to be able to control our education, to have a national language, and be proud with these cultural aspects of our lives, so that we will do what we have to do to remove the inequality that goes on every now and then.
What is your final thought here in the conversation regarding what we have discussed today, Kwame Nkrumah, politics, I want you to leave the audience with your final thought here. Please go.
Thank you for bringing me on your platform. But I am sometimes disturbed about what I see going on in my own country, especially the corruption that goes on in government, in private relationships. And I feel that for a nation to be able to develop or succeed, it has to put down certain ideas. Kwame Nkrumah brought about the independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it is linked with the total liberation of Africa, which is Pan-Africanism. Did we understand it? I said, well, the words are there, but where are the deeds? The deeds, you can't find it. So, I don't have much to offer in rounding this interview, to round up this interview, but I would say that we have a few more years to learn what makes a people strong, a people very, very alert in anything, in economics, in politics, in education, and in self-preservation. Because if we don't learn all these things and compare with what goes on as is going on now, where there are hidden factors of ruling of ruling a whole country or unite with other countries in Africa, then we will have to be so naive in other people's view, because they will still use our naivety to rule us, economically, so to speak. If we have African economic market with one currency, with one citizenship, then we will get somewhere. But it would appear that we say all these things, our leaders say all these things, and we don't see it in our curriculum. You go to an African school, or you go to Ghanaian schools, even the person who achieved independence or fought for us to achieve independence, after the man has left, we fight him, we fight his ghost, we fight his ideas. We want to put some naive ideas and leave specific ideas that he used to get independence for us. I don't know, or if I know that education is the weapon for the development of a people, a country. We have not been able to do anything that will make us believe in Pan-Africanism or whatever. It's not in our curriculum. The curriculum of schools, universities. It's sad, very, very sad. So that's it. We have a long way to go. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, sir. I appreciate it. If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi Podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehi Ewanfo. Thank you so much for listening, and talk to you in the next episode.